live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Great to have you with us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. Tuesday, October 10th. We're going in depth tonight. Our continuing coverage on the conflict taking place and unfolding in Israel and in Gaza. So we're looking at Hamas, Israel, everything that pertains to what we've learned over the last day or so. And also, we now know that a Yutan was killed at that rave in southern Israel within the last week or so, late last week. So we are talking with Rabbi Avremi Zippel, who knew that man and shares more about Lotan Abir coming up in just a few minutes. Before we get there, though, as we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive, join the conversation. You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've done a lot of, obviously, social media posts about this. If you have a connection to Israel, of course, we would love to hear from you. So please send us a message to weigh in. Now turning to the developing conflict in the Middle East, the death toll in Israel continues to rise after Hamas launched one of the deadliest terror attacks in Israel's history. We're learning one of the 14 Americans killed is a Utah man. Israel forces continue to fire airstrikes on the Gaza Strip there in its ongoing counteroffensive. Military leaders say tanks are being prepared for a possible ground strike. Meanwhile, terrorist organization Hamas continues to launch missiles into neighboring Israeli cities. Israel is also striking back, Hamas holding an unknown number of hostages in Gaza. As of tonight, nearly 2,000 people are confirmed dead in the conflict that has really ramped up in the last few days. Happening tonight, a local solidarity gathering for Israel. It's being put on at Congregation Kol Ami here in Mill Creek. Ariel Harrison is there. Ariel, what are you seeing tonight? Looks like a really nice crowd and outpouring of support behind you.
That's right, Brian. I'd say there's almost 200 people here at least. We are at the synagogue in Mill Creek where the Kol Ami congregation meets. We have around 200 people that came out to listen to different leaders of the Jewish faith. We have the city mayor of Salt Lake, Mayor Mendenhall, wrapping up her comments at the podium now. But the heartache, the loss, the hurt amid all this conflict is tangible here in the air. People, they have heavy hearts. They're visibly emotional. Brian, you mentioned that a young man died over the weekend. That we're aware of. This community is very aware of that. When I've prompted questions about just the overall loss, they are visibly emotional. So these messages of hope and peace and encouragement coming from the different community leaders is very touching to them. We heard earlier from Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. It's my understanding there are a number of leaders stepping in. We just heard from Mayor Aaron Mendenhall. We do have a police presence here as well. The security aspect of this is also important. There were bomb threats over the weekend, so something they're very mindful of, making sure that everyone here continues to be safe, because safety is a major concern in this community.
Ariel Harrison live for us tonight. Ariel, thank you. I know we'll be checking in with you throughout the evening. Here with Rabbi Avremi Zippel, talking about just the ongoing conflict in Israel and unfortunate news to share with a lot of Utahns today, learning about the death of one of our own here in the state. Rabbi, kind enough to join us to talk a little bit more about the lives behind a lot of the photos that we see, but specifically one here that Utahns can become connected to. Thanks for being here, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Brian, and I appreciate it. I'm here today to talk a little bit about my friend Lotan Abir. This is a photo that was taken back in March at Public on, I think it's 900 South. Down the street from Smith's Ballpark. Lotan was a member of our community, had been for the better part of a year. We had been notified Saturday night that he had gone missing following a rave in southern Israel, and this morning his family confirmed his death. He'll be laid to rest tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. In the Holy Land, together with dozens, hundreds of other families that are laying their loved ones to rest.
And you were telling me there were a number of Utahns that were at that rave over the weekend.
There were. Lotan was down there with two friends that together they had been in Israel for a wedding several weeks ago, and they were hanging out there with the family for a little while longer, and some of his friends had managed to get away and he hadn't. And I remember on Saturday night when I was first notified that he was reported missing, you think to yourself, he was at a rave. Lotan was 24, he was a DJ, he loved music, he loved life. And there are people that I know that go to raves, well, if not every day, then every weekend. And going to a rave is not the sort of thing that I think any human being should have to worry about their safety. When a parent hears that their young child, their young adult child is going to a rave, we don't expect to live in a world where a parent immediately thinks to themselves, oh my God, are they going to be okay? And those are the sorts of folks that are dying in Israel right now. Those are the sorts of innocent souls that are being massacred. Young, fun-loving, innocent people who wanted to party and dance with their friends all night without a care in the world, without a malicious intent towards another human being. Those are the sorts of casualties that our community and our people are experiencing. And I think it puts a really powerful and human face on this issue. I'm hearing a lot in the media and from folks here in town about, the political conflict that's going on right now in Israel. Political conflict almost has the connotation that the folks that are being killed are high-level cabinet members and parliamentarians and folks that are involved in creating policy in Israel. These are young people at a rave. In addition to the rave that was attacked, there was a nature festival. It was about 200 young people who were sleeping outdoors in nature. Can you get more innocent than that? Can you get more innocent than wanting to sleep under the moon and experience God's good earth at a nature festival? And those are the sorts of innocent men, women, and children that are being massacred in the Holy Land. Those are the sorts of people that my community is mourning and will continue to mourn in the weeks ahead. And as Israel gains control of those territories, those numbers will continue to rise, and we will continue to mourn.
Please hold up that photo right here for this camera, because nice and high there. This is who we're talking about. This is a member of our community here in Utah. You mentioned that Lotan has lived here for about a year and a half or so. How will you remember him?
Well, I remember Lotan much like this photo represents. He's holding up a noisemaker. Traditionally on Purim, on the holiday that we were celebrating on this day in question, whenever the evil Haman's name is mentioned, it's booed out, as it were, in the synagogue or in the coffee shop in this instance. And I'll remember Lotan as someone who was ever trying to smile and blot out evil. And I think in his memory, that is something that we can all relate to and connect to, that desire to always be cheerful and always vanquish evil from our midst.
Over the last few days, so much news coming out from both sides of this very horrifying conflict. But what are you hearing from people here in Utah, maybe not even members of your faith? What are they saying to you? What are they reaching out to say to you and members of your community?
In full transparency, there have been so many kind gestures, and I'll say that. Just as I was leaving to come over here, a young woman came over to the synagogue with a number of handwritten cards from her family, which I thought was a beautiful gesture. But it's remarkable that I'm hearing from people who, there's a lot of folks who have shared on their social media, and I'm hearing from other people, I'd love to share something on my social media, Jew and non-Jew alike, but I'm scared of blowback from my employer. The DEI office at our corporate headquarters has reservations about my sharing about Jews that are being massacred in Israel. And all I think to myself is about September 12th, 2001, if we would all had social media back in the day, and if I would have wanted to fly an American flag from my home. I was a kid on 9/11, but if I would have had a home and a flag to fly, would I have been concerned about blowback from various corporate entities? And that's what I'm hearing from folks in town is, we want to share our condolences with you. We're not calling for revenge, and we're not calling for military strikes. We're mourning the loss of hundreds of human beings. And we can't do that out of fear of reprisal. We might lose our jobs. Who knows? We might be canceled. The Jazz put out a little image yesterday. The Utah Jazz as an organization stand with the hundreds of innocent lives lost in Israel. And you go through those comments. 2,000 comments at last count. Free Palestine, death to the Jews. Too bad Hitler's not around. That's what we're dealing with at the moment, and that's the very real concern for a number of us.
I'm just processing it as you say those things, because obviously I'm on social media too, and I see those comments in response to something like this. But aside from the comments, your role of leadership to the community and your congregation, how have you been able to process any of this as the news comes in? And just over the last week or so, this is so much devastation.
I think at its core, the most important thing that the members of my community, Jews that I'm interfacing with, remember at this time is no one's looking for something inspiring to say. There's a lot of tears to be shed at this point. More than anything, I think a lot of us need a shoulder to cry on and want to be a shoulder to be cried on. And I think when we think about the response from within the community and outside the community, you cannot overstate the human element of this experience. And I've said this week, as Jews, we're no secret to pain and suffering. You know, we've lost brothers and sisters through the ages, never at this quantity and never in this fashion. This morning there were reports that finally circulated of 40 babies that were beheaded in an Israeli kibbutz, and there's, you know, no one's got any insight. I mean, what do you say to someone who sees those pictures? You know, how do you rationalize that? You cry, you be there in it with those that are mourning, and I think in a call to the wider community, all we can ask for is just stand with us, just understand and process what we're going through at the moment. We'll be gathering on the Capitol steps tomorrow night at 5 p.m. And all we can really ask for is other humans to join us in the human experience.
I was going to ask you about that event because obviously I think people want to find a way to, well, how can I cope with what I've been seeing? How can I relate? How can I come together? That seems like a great meeting place for people to come together of all faiths to just not only support what you're feeling, but also grieve a little bit.
I would agree. It's you know, we're extremely intentional as to the peaceful nature of the rally. We're excited to have the governor in attendance, who confirmed his participation just a short few minutes ago. And it'll be a human experience. If you're a human being that has been bothered or touched by the images that you're seeing online or the reports that you're seeing online, and you want a moment to stand with other human beings in conflict, I think it's a tremendous opportunity.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Brian.
President Joe Biden making his stance clear on Israel during a speech today. The president says he intends to ask Congress to approve more funding for Israel to help it defend its territory and its people.
We must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. The loss of innocent life is heartbreaking. Like every nation in the world, Israel has the right to respond, indeed has a duty to respond to these vicious attacks.
President Biden says he told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that if what happened to them happened in the U.S., the response would be, quote, swift and decisive. Today I spoke with former Utah Congressman Chris Stewart, who also served our country. With a lot of his focus on military happenings while working in Washington, I wanted to know more about the role of the United States and what the U.S. is playing here in this role, specifically in Israel as the conflict continues. What comes to mind when you see what's unfolding in the region, in and around Israel?
Well, I mean, it's incredibly distressing, and it should be. We've never seen anything like this really in the entire history of Israel. We've never seen an incursion that's been as successful. We've never seen as much violence. We've never seen as many hostages or as many people have been killed. And it really puts Israel in a very, very difficult situation. I mean, it is nearly impossible to go into Gaza, a very confined area that has more than 2 million people, almost all of which hate Israel and would like to, kill Israelis if they could. They're very sympathetic to Hamas and their desires to destroy Israel. And so the leadership of Israel has this option of saying, well, we go into Gaza and do kind of like what the U.S. had to do in Ramallah and Fallujah and a couple other places. I mean, it's house to house, neighborhood by neighborhood, clearing them of threats. Or if they don't do that, leaving the potential for this to happen once again. And I think that I think they're going to be far more aggressive than they've ever had to be before, because they've been attacked in a way that they've never quite been before.
What is the general responsibility, as you see it, from the United States in a conflict like this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things. One of them is just to be very vocal that we support Israel, and we're going to continue to support Israel. Because I anticipate, and I say this with a high degree of confidence, the support for Israel is going to erode over the next few days. You're going to have those who will criticize them of having a disproportionate response. You're going to be, some of the same characters, even today and yesterday, have said that it's Israel's fault, blaming them. And I think one of the primary things is the president should be just very, very clear. We support Israel. We're going to support their ability and their moral right to defend themselves. Now, going down a couple layers, there's a military aspect to this as well. You'll notice that we moved a aircraft carrier task force group to the region, the USS Ford, actually the largest, most powerful carrier that we have. I think that's good and it's important, but it's also very limited. It's not like we are going to assign U.S. fighters to go strike targets in Gaza. It's unlikely that we do that. Now, in an extraordinary circumstance, we might, but I don't anticipate that's going to be the case. But by allowing us to have assets in the region, once again, it shows our support, it shows our resolve, but it also enhances, for example, our intelligence capabilities. We can provide some reconnaissance capabilities, and there's some other benefits to being in the region and being close to the region. And finally, it acts as a deterrent. Should Iran decide that they're going to become directly involved, should Hezbollah in Lebanon decide that they're going to become more involved, it acts as a deterrent to other parties joining into the conflict right now. The first thing is I hope we're able to contain the conflict, that we don't have Iran enter the conflict, that we don't have Hezbollah or some of the other kind of nefarious characters that are in the region. Should be our priority. And I think we'll be able to do that. I think if Iran were to have committed forces to this fight, they would have done that by this point. So, and now we don't know that for sure, but the leading indicators are they're likely not going to do that. So that's good. But I think this is going to be a bloody, painful couple days, maybe couple weeks, maybe even longer. And then the final question is Israel going to have to occupy Gaza like they did, previous to 2005? I can tell you that they don't want to. It's very dangerous for them. It's a very, very, very difficult, and it draws on their resources in ways that they don't really want to have to be committed to. But over the next couple of weeks, I think we'll see what their commitment is to actually rooting out these terrorist organizations. And to do that, they're going to have to spend some resources and commit some time and troops to actually being in Gaza for a period of time.
The region right now, as it stands in 2023, how would you describe the volatility of the Middle East and obviously Israel and Gaza kind of mixed in there?
Yeah, the region is always just kind of a lull between conflicts. It's been that way for 50 years or even longer. And right now we're in a time of conflict, obviously. But as I said, it's very unpredictable. You've got so much emotion. You've got so much history at play there. You've got forces that are just committed to fighting actually to the very death to achieve their goals. It's a very volatile, a very unpredictable mix.
Thanks to both former Representative Chris Stewart and Rabbi Avremi Zippel for weighing in today on 2 News Live. Very tense situation for so many. We'll continue to monitor what's taking place in the Middle East as we learn new developments. Stick with us on air and online, KUTV.com, and be sure to download the 2 News mobile app for the latest updates on the go. Let's turn our focus to some changes in the forecast here.
Yeah, we have a chilly storm coming in here in just a few more hours. And those snow levels are going to be dropping potentially to the lowest levels we've seen so far this season.
So you know me, I like snow. Mm-hmm. You admitted on the air earlier today that, after I think somebody said, oh, of course I listen to you. Oh, wow. Most days.
We're learning.
So I'm learning. I'll take that jab. That's a good one. Yeah. One of those things that obviously I love snow. You like snow. You are a winter, a snowboarder. We've hit the slopes many times. Yes. So to see this does entice me, does have me hooked.
It does, but just keep in mind it is October. We're going to be warming things up and we're going to be melting some of this snow. It is a little early, but not that unusual to see this. So for tomorrow, those snow levels, Brian, they're going to start at 8,000 feet. They come down to 7,000 feet. I get a lot of questions when people ask, what about me? What about me? It's really important to know your elevation as we head into the winter season because we talk about snow levels so often because of our terrain. So many different people live at so many different elevations.
How about, so here's an easy one to answer then. What about me? I live on the valley floor. What's the generalized elevation there in the
generally 4,300 feet to about 4,500 feet. There's that compass app on your phone that's free. If you just open it up, it's going to tell you exactly what your elevation is. So it's really easy to do that. And by Thursday, that's when the really cooler air moves in. Those snow levels could come down to about 6,000 feet. Maybe some of those high benches, sun crests, might see some snowflakes coming down by Thursday morning.
After a remarkable winter for folks in that neighborhood. By the way, I've never felt taller than I do right now, noting the elevation. Thanks for just putting me on more stilts.
You are not 12,000 feet,
well,
just so you know.
Depending on how much air is inflated in my head, yes.
Okay, let's get to your forecast. Here's what you need to know. We have our first winter weather advisory of the season moving in as well for the mountains, and snow will be accumulating. Now tonight, that's when the rain begins to arrive, especially after midnight. Most of it will be Wednesday and Thursday. Temperatures will be in the 40s and 50s in northern Utah, but central and southern Utah dry for tonight. And southern Utah, you stay dry with the storm system. So we'll see a cool down, 78 degrees in St. George, but you'll have lots of sunshine. Now, as you head into central Utah, a few showers are possible. Best chance for that valley rain and mountain snow will be here in northern Utah. Look at these temperatures. Today we hit 80 degrees. We're going to be in the upper 50s tomorrow along the Wasatch Front, with upper 40s towards Park City and Evanston. So here is our storm system that's going to be moving in. The core is still way out in the Pacific, so that's where that chilly air mass is. That really doesn't arrive until Wednesday night and Thursday morning. But ahead of it, we already have a little bit of that rain, and that rain is already starting to spread into northern Utah. Right now it looks pretty light. Far northern Utah seeing those showers, but things really get going though by the late morning hours tomorrow. Scattered showers and maybe even a few thunderstorms. There's that widespread rain that moves in midday and early afternoon. Mountain snow. Notice though, quiet south of I-70, just a little breezy. We'll have a few breaks here and there Wednesday evening and Wednesday night. Then our winds change direction out of the northwest, and we'll see potentially that cold air move over the Great Salt Lake and enhance those showers. So some lake effect Thursday morning, especially southeast of the Great Salt Lake, and that's when it could really pile up in the Cottonwood Canyons. And then the storm is out of here sometime Thursday afternoon or evening. I think we'll have some leftover cloud cover and maybe a few lingering showers. But the good news is that it's going to be gone for the weekend, so you can make those outdoor plans, and for the eclipse. Now here's how much rain we could see: 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch along the Wasatch Front. Definitely lower amounts elsewhere. Locally higher amounts though, if we get that lake effect, it will be lake effect rain here in the lower valleys, but maybe some snowflake skin mixing in along some of the benches. 14 inches of snow at Alta, so the Cottonwood's doing well. Generally our mountains 2 to 8 inches. Park City, you can see your first accumulating snow of the season. Right now it looks like a dusting to maybe an inch or two. Speaking of the eclipse, as I mentioned, the storm's out of here. We'll have mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies from Delta, Richfield, Capitol Reef, Blanding. Great spots to view that annular eclipse and the solar eclipse, the Ring of Fire. We'll have some cloud cover, but no rain or snow, so hopefully we'll have good visibility. But don't forget proper eye gear if you're going to take a look at the sun. Now, temperatures are going to be cooler in St. George. We go to 70 on Thursday, but notice by the weekend we're warming up into the upper 70s, low 80s. There's just no rain coming to southern Utah anytime soon. Salt Lake, though, we got lots of rain for tomorrow and on Thursday, especially Thursday morning. We'll go to the low 50s, so pretty chilly, well below normal. Not quite hitting freezing in Salt Lake, but other areas like central Utah could see lows getting close or below freezing, so keep that in mind. As we head into the weekend, though, beautiful. Partly cloudy, upper 60s, low 70s. Next week, Storm Brian moves in on Tuesday of next week.
I like this, man. I mean, I'm good with the midweek, debacle, and then we're all good by Friday into the weekend. This is good. By the way, I was really listening.
Okay.
14 inches at Alta.
There you
can
go.
ski on that.
You know what?
I know people that'll do it.
If the lake really kicks in and we see over a foot of snow, Trent Parker, our weather producer,
going up there, baby.
There will be a lot of folks in that Alta parking lot walking up for some first runs of the season.
A lot more to talk about this. I was given this. We got to go. Thanks for watching 2 News Live. We're back tomorrow at 5:30. Have a great night. Peep this forecast. This is wild.